Welcome to In Conversation with the Branson Centre of Entrepreneurship. Listen in as we chat to inspirational people about their journeys to inspire your own. We hope these conversations will delight you, ignite your ideas, and propel you forward as you think about and grow your businesses.
So today I'm in conversation with Tamburai Chirume, who is an incredible entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur who has a huge passion for delivering and changing on a narrative that exists around Africa, huge passion around working with women and enabling women to be the best versions of themselves at the end of the day. And so we'll be talking a little bit about Tamburai's business, we'll be talking about what purpose means to you, and of course how that relates to planning, which is one of our areas of impact when we talk about businesses here at the Branson Centre of Entrepreneurship. Tamburai, so nice to see you. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me here today. My name is Tamburai Chirume. I'm the co-founder of One of Each, which is a luxury African brand based here in Cape Town. And yes, I love working with entrepreneurs and I'm passionate about brands and changing the African narrative.
Absolutely. And so what is it that got you to be an entrepreneur? And when did you understand that you're an entrepreneur?
That's a loaded question, but I needed to be an entrepreneur because I think entrepreneurship is within my DNA. Both my parents never worked for anyone, so that's the life that I knew. But what I saw during my time when I worked in banking, I saw that there's an opportunity for me to do some purpose-driven work. You know, I loved fashion. I loved creating items. But I knew that there was something better that I can do within that process to make a little bit of a change, you know, seeing some social ills and different aspects of life that I felt that I could contribute to.
Okay, so what I think is really interesting is already touching on the idea that when you worked for somebody else, you worked in banking. And the purpose of today's conversation is to actually talk about planning. So I think that ties in terms of where you were in your corporate life and where you are as Tamburai, now brand owner of One of Each. And so what does planning mean to you?
Wow. So planning, I think, is really important. It either happens in your head or it happens on a piece of paper. But either way, we all have a vision for our business. We all have a vision for our life. But how do you get there? How do you put things in place to be able to say, these are the goals that I have to be able to achieve that vision? So I think that is what planning is. Planning is seeing that dream, but also saying, this is how I think or how I anticipate to actually step into that ability to achieve.
So I think for me, you touched on one of my favorite words when we talk about planning, which is this idea of goals. So when we talk about goals and in terms of how you set them for yourself in your business and also in your life, how do you go about setting your goals?
I think it's really important, firstly, like you're saying, having those goals. So having the goals, looking at them, tying them to your vision, you know, and saying to yourself, okay, now that I have this goal, what are the things around me that can enable me to actually get towards achieving them in bits and pieces? Because we all know that goals can be really overwhelming. You know, some people are very goal-driven, and that's really important in business. But also, do you have accountability partners as well, or people around you that help you to be accountable to those goals, which is something that I feel is really important.
And I think for me, when we start talking about even setting those goals, in order to know what goal to set, you first actually almost need to know what success looks like. Absolutely. And, you know, for us at the Branson Centre, a lot of success or how we define success is defined by purpose. And so when you're talking about goals and maybe planning in your business, how does that come out for you in relation to your purpose?
So purpose, I think, is it's a really strong concept because I don't know of an entrepreneur that is pretty much towards the road of success or is successful who hasn't been purpose-driven in their work. So I think your purpose actually really helps you to be able to know the hows, the whys. Why am I doing this? My understanding of purpose is reason. So the idea of waking up in the morning and actually going to my studio, that purpose is somewhere within me to realize that it doesn't matter how hard things could be, but I'm here because of my purpose. And I think that helps you with your planning. It helps you to know what to accept, what opportunities to take, and what type of things are you not going to get involved in, because it's also important to know what to go for and what not to go for.
What's your purpose?
My purpose. So my purpose has changed over time. I would say that my purpose is tied in with my brand as one of each. And that purpose is actually shifting the African narrative through fashion and design.
Okay. So for us, when we talk about purpose, then we talk about planning and we talk about goals, we think that some of that needs to be time specific. And so what does your success look like when we're talking about goals in terms of time?
So it's really looking at those goals and saying, and knowing yourself in terms of what's achievable. So I was taught by a strategy coach that you would do a 30, 60, and a 90. So what can I achieve in 30 days? What can I achieve in 60 days? And what can I achieve in 90 days? And then you break it up based on the things that you need to do on a daily basis to actually achieve those goals.
I love this idea of 30, 60, 90. Sometimes we talk about it being do now, do soon, do later. And it just depends on what you look at those units of time as. So, for us, when we look at our 3-year plan as a Branson Centre, do now is year 1, do soon is year 2, do later are things related to year 3. But what's really important is by the time we're looking at year 3, it feels quite overwhelming. So then we go backwards all the way down to 90 days and then bring it down to every day. And so we start talking then about the brilliant basics and we start talking about our obsessions. What are we going to obsess over for the next 7 days, for the next 2 weeks, or for the next 3 months or whatever? And I think that helps to break it down because that's this idea of the goals starting to be achievable, they're measurable, and at the same time, they're linked to a time-specific sort of goal. And so I like this idea of 30, 60, 90. What are some of the pitfalls that you've come across as you think about your business in terms of what you've planned for? What mistakes have you made when it comes to planning?
Okay, so as I said to you that I've been an entrepreneur by nature within my DNA, but there were certain things that I needed to learn along the way, which were really specific about strategy, really specific about goal setting, because sometimes you're so passionate about what you do that you don't realize that for me to get to a specific place, this is what I need to implement. So I think one of the things that I've really done well is that I've managed to work on my business instead of in my business constantly. And I think that's the thing that entrepreneurs struggle with, especially creative businesses, because we're makers, we're creators, we really love the part of making things. But how do I build a business that is an asset of value through working on my business and not constantly doing the runarounds of in the business?
Right. And I think that's really, really valuable because entrepreneurs go straight into the trenches and you forget to look up and see, the bigger picture, even though you do have one, but you don't necessarily see it. And I think that's the beauty then of actually being able to have that plan that helps you to have a reference point as you go along. And I think we will make mistakes, obviously, but that's okay. That's why we then try and have a plan so that we can go back to that plan or change the plan. True. And so what is the importance of setting goals, and what are your personal goals, and what are your business's goals?
I feel that it's really important to set goals because I believe that we all have a vision. We all have a reason why we have started businesses. So how does one get there without actually saying that these are my goals? So for my business, I would say that one of the biggest goals is really to create diversity and transformation in the fashion industry, not only in South Africa, but in Africa, and I think my personal goals and my business goals actually align because I'm deeply passionate about diversity and transformation and seeing people of color in industries that are specific, like fashion and design, that were never really welcoming to those people. So I think it's really important somewhere, somehow, for your business goals to really align as well with your personal goals, because it helps you on a daily to decide the things that you're willing to get involved in and the things that you're not.
Yeah, and I think also we're humans, right? So to try and separate, our personal purpose, our personal goals from business, and your business goals and business purpose, sometimes it's difficult because who you are at home is still very much the person that you are in your business. So I think that's a nice point to be able to integrate those two. I also think what's really interesting about what you're talking about with your goals is that it is so specific and it's also measurable. This is something where you can actually work out how many people who otherwise wouldn't have been afforded opportunities through your work are now having access to those opportunities. And I think that's also a big piece around goal setting, that it is something that we can measure against and we can track, our progress against that goal. We might not always achieve it, but at least we can track progress, and need to change course, so be it.
Absolutely.
So that's the fun part.
Yeah, I think measuring goals is also really important, because you'll say, okay, this is my goal, but what outcome do I feel or need to see to actually feel that I've achieved that specific goal? Yeah.
I'm going to do a quick fire of a couple of questions, and maybe you can complete the sentence for me. Planning is?
Planning is reason.
Planning helps me?
Achieve.
When I don't plan, I?
Stumble.
When I do plan, life looks like?
Looks clear.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you also tell us a little bit more about one of each, your products, where you are, what your highlights are in terms of where you're at in your business now?
So one of each is a mother and daughter collaboration. My mom's the designer and I am the business and marketing person behind the brand. And we create brand items that are of luxury. As we're saying, we want to change the African narrative. We want to change the perceptions of what people think Africa is. So we put pride in everything that we make. But at the same time, one of the things that we're really proud of is having passed the knowledge of what we're doing in our business through creating this training program where we have young girls from underserved communities who we actually train what we're actually doing and what we've achieved in our business. So I think we really are, as we're growing, living our purpose, but it's also just evolving over time and defining itself through our everyday actions.
Was that part of your plan?
No.
And I love that you can also work off plan and start a new plan.
Absolutely.
Tamburai, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to be in conversation with you, to learn a little bit about you, your journey, to understand a little bit more about one of each, your purpose, your goals, your plans. And so thank you for joining us. It's been so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of In Conversation with the Branson Centre. For more inspirational content that delights, visit our website, bransoncentre.co.za, and follow us on our social media channels at Branson Centre of Entrepreneurship South Africa on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Till next time.